Welcome to Gen AI Pulse, your daily tech update. Today, we are really zeroing in on this massive strategic partnership that was just announced between OpenAI, SoftBank Group, and SB Energy. The entire arrangement is focused on building the next generation of AI data centers and, crucially, the energy infrastructure needed for something like the massive $500 billion Stargate commitment.
And this is, it's absolutely foundational. It really redefines what hyperscale even means in this new age of generative AI. So the core question we really have to address today is this. Does this specific, highly integrated partnership model, combining the deep financial war chests, the specialized design, the dedicated energy development, is this really the most effective and efficient way to deploy AI compute at this multi-gigawatt scale?
Right. And I maintain that this kind of dedicated, vertically integrated approach isn't just a strategic choice, it's a necessity. It's the optimal model to get the unprecedented speed and capacity that we need for the next leap in AI. It fundamentally guarantees compute delivery in a way the traditional market just can't.
And my skepticism, it centers on that very complexity. I question whether the structural requirements and the, frankly, staggering capital investment truly offer the speed and efficiency that they're promising, especially when you compare it to models that rely on, robust, competitive market dynamics and a more diversified set of vendors.
Well, the fundamental premise here is that traditional infrastructure supply chains have now become the primary bottleneck for AI progress. As OpenAI's president Greg Brockman put it, this partnership is designed as a, and I'm quoting here, fast, reliable way to scale compute through large, highly optimized AI data centers. The $1 billion joint investment, that's $500 million from each partner, it's not just general funding. It's specialized equity specifically designed to immediately scale SB Energy's ability to execute. This whole arrangement secures purpose-built infrastructure by merging OpenAI's own first-party data center design with SB Energy's expertise in, speed and cost discipline. And the acquisition of Studio 151 is key here. It brings construction, procurement, all that operational expertise in-house. It ensures that these unique, high-density AI campuses are repeatable at scale and with certainty. I really think this vertical integration is the only viable path forward.
Okay, but I have to fundamentally disagree with the premise that vertical integration automatically gets rid of risk or guarantees speed. The very fact that they had to create this specialized, highly funded structure implies that the conventional methods were, completely insufficient, which to me suggests the underlying challenges are just immense. The scope is monumental. We're talking about a 1.2 gigawatt initial lease in Milam County, Texas, with plans for multiple multi-gigawatt campuses. That level of complexity inherently fights against rapid deployment. And then there's the money. The financial backing, it sort of reveals the staggering cost. It's the $1 billion joint investment plus the $800 million in preferred equity they already got from Ares last year. That's $1.8 billion just to get this thing off the ground, which suggests incredibly high underlying costs.
The need to protect Texas ratepayers, well, that turns this from a construction project into a massive utility-scale energy development, adding years of potential hurdles to the timetable.
You see, you're framing that complexity as a weakness, but I see it as the managed necessity that actually guarantees efficiency. When we talk about building new generation capacity for the Milam County load, that's not some regulatory burden, it's an operational necessity. It ensures long-term grid stability. In a market like Texas, a massive, unexpected industrial load can destabilize the whole grid, and that leads to volatile energy costs. By planning and building new, dedicated generation, the partnership actually alleviates pressure on the existing infrastructure, so it genuinely protects ratepayers from those potential cost spikes. And you add to that the specialized design for minimizing water usage. This comprehensive, internally controlled approach to power, to thermal management, and to construction is really the only way to manage the intense demands of a 1.2 gigawatt site and ensure predictable costs. Control in this scenario really is certainty.
I acknowledge that integrating things like minimizing water usage and investing in new power are, socially responsible steps. However, integrating the development of entirely new power generation alongside the data center construction fundamentally adds so many variables that it really seems to contradict the promise of certainty and fast delivery. New generation projects are notorious for complexity, for being capital-intensive, and for relying on these extensive multi-year regulatory and permitting timelines. The critical need for new generation strongly indicates the existing power grid just can't handle this demand. So it elevates the whole thing from a rapid data center build to a massive energy project, making the promised speed feel, well, highly aspirational. It's constrained by real external physical limits and regulatory inertia.
But that critique, it really discounts the value of the parallel processing that this vertical integration enables. This is not a standard developer just waiting on a utility company. This is SB Energy, vertically aligned with the compute owner, committing massive capital to simultaneously manage permitting, long lead component procurement, and data center design, all while the energy projects are moving forward. We are talking about shaving years off traditional timelines because they eliminate that sequential dependency cycle, that lag time where a third-party developer waits for power commitments before they can even finalize the design. The scale of the investment lets them move forward with certainty, accelerating the entire stack.
But accelerated parallel risk management is still just risk management. Infrastructure development at this scale is so heavily reliant on external approval bodies. I mean, delays are standard in these large-scale power projects, regardless of how much internal commitment you have. A diversified model would spread that risk across multiple, maybe smaller, potentially pre-permitted locations with lower regulatory profiles. This partnership model, it kind of magnifies the risk associated with a delay in one critical dependency, the new power plant, because the entire 1.2 gigawatt campus hinges on it. So the speed advantage only materializes if they hit these aggressive and frankly highly uncertain regulatory and construction milestones.
Let's circle back to the structure itself, though. Specifically, the financial mechanisms. The scale of the required capital, that $1.8 billion total you mentioned, it's just massive.
It strongly signals a high financial risk profile inherent to achieving this Stargate scale. And it makes me question where the efficiency gains really are. The $800 million in preferred equity from ERAs, for example, that's non-dilutive financing. Sure, it helps accelerate execution, but it also demands a high return that has to be serviced. This implies the bespoke infrastructure has to deliver exceptional long-term efficiency just to justify that elevated cost of capital. And the acquisition of Studio 151, while smart, also suggests the external market just lacks the specialized expertise to deliver this kind of high-density architecture on time.
I have to challenge that assertion that the acquisition and the capital suggest reactivity. I think it signals strategic control over proprietary IP. High-density AI compute requires architectures unlike anything we've seen in traditional data centers. We're talking specialized cooling loops, ultra-dense racks, power systems that need constant, rapid iteration. If you rely on external contractors, you risk slow iteration and compromised IP. By bringing Studio 151 in-house, OpenAI ensures its proprietary designs can be built rapidly, guaranteeing performance and predictable costs, which are the true metrics for AI scaling. And the capital commitment itself, it eliminates the biggest bottleneck: sequential financing. This cash certainty lets them secure long-term contracts, pre-purchase critical components, and hedge against inflation, which directly supports the claim of speed and cost discipline.
Okay, but I find myself struggling with the implication that this massive upfront investment guarantees superior efficiency over the long term, especially when you factor in the relentless pace of technology obsolescence. The physical building might take years to complete. What happens if, in the meantime, the optimal cooling method shifts, say from liquid immersion to some advanced phase change? Suddenly that highly specialized bespoke architecture becomes a liability. A flexible, market-sourced facility might adapt better. This high financial commitment means this integrated architecture has to perform perfectly and evolve seamlessly for a decade just to justify the cost.
But that view overlooks the operational synergy that could built right into this model. This is where the integration truly pays off against obsolescence. SB Energy isn't just a builder, they're going to become a major customer of OpenAI, deploying their APIs, using ChatGPT internally. This creates a direct first-party feedback loop. The infrastructure developer is also an active user of the AI workloads running on the infrastructure they built.
That kind of operational data gives them real-time insights into thermal performance, power draw, workload optimization, and allows for continuous refinement of existing campuses and rapid adjustments to future designs. That deep integration is simply impossible in a traditional vendor relationship. Ultimately, this whole partnership is being framed as a foundational step for national competitiveness and technological certainty. Rich Hosfeld said this collaboration, quote, accelerates our delivery of advanced AI data center campuses at the scale required to advance Stargate and secure America's AI future. The critical challenge for AI innovation is guaranteed access to massive compute. By creating this dedicated preferred development pipeline, they eliminate the risk that scaling or power availability will become the limiting factor for innovation. This aggressive alignment ensures the velocity you need to keep pace with the exponential growth of AI models.
That's one way to frame it, but I'd argue that this structure really indicates a critical, almost existential reliance on SoftBank and SB Energy to solve OpenAI's scaling challenge. It signals, maybe inadvertently, the unique difficulty that even top-tier AI companies face in securing power and physical infrastructure at this hyperscale level. This is less an inherent proof that this non-exclusive partnership model is superior and more just powerful evidence that the existing competitive infrastructure supply chain simply cannot meet the unique demands of multi-gigawatt AI workloads quickly or cheaply enough. It seems like a strategic necessity born out of a market shortage, not some optimal blueprint that everyone should now follow.
But necessity at this scale is the new blueprint. By guaranteeing resource access and internalizing these core dependencies, they are pioneering a new form of integrated utility and compute architecture. The velocity is critical. The scale allows for immediate economies of scale in procurement and deployment that even the biggest cloud vendors struggle with when they're dependent on third parties.
I agree that it's a necessary divergence. A true measure of success will be the actual delivery timeline relative to those staggering capital costs. We've established that the partnership is laden with complexity, building new generation, managing tough regulatory requirements, and handling almost $2 billion in capital. If this highly integrated structure fails to meet aggressive targets or sees significant cost overruns because of external factors, well, it will prove that market and infrastructural constraints, not internal commitment, are still the dominant bottleneck for multi-gigawatt AI.
So, to sum up my view, the partnership between OpenAI, SoftBank Group, and SB Energy is a critical and, I think, necessary evolution to meet accelerating AI compute demand. By integrating specialized design with dedicated energy and development resources and backing it with a massive $1 billion commitment, they've established a rapid, purpose-built pipeline for repeatable, multi-gigawatt infrastructure. It's essential for advancing something like the Stargate goals.
And my perspective remains that while this investment is clearly needed to get to that scale, the monumental complexity of this integrated approach, managing the vast capital, the regulatory factors in building new power, environmental needs, it really just confirms that deploying AI infrastructure at this extreme scale is still a highly constrained, monumental task. The outcome will be the real test of whether this specialized partnership model can overcome these inherent hurdles faster and more reliably than traditional, more diversified approaches.
Well, thank you for joining us on Gen AI Pulse. We've laid out two very distinct views on how to scale AI infrastructure. It's really a question of control and certainty versus the inherent risks of complexity and capital intensity.
Indeed. And there's clearly so much more to explore here at the intersection of energy, finance, and the future of AI. Thanks for tuning in.